Have you ever just, stopped and wondered how you became, well, you? I mean, what are all the different forces and conflicts and lessons that shaped the person you are right now? It's one of the biggest questions out there, and today we're going to dig into some of the most powerful answers psychology has ever come up with.
So yeah, that's the big question, right? How do we become who we are? Are we driven by these deep unconscious desires? Are we just a product of our environment? Or is it all about how our own thinking grows up and matures over time? Let's dive in and find out.
So here's our game plan. We're going to explore 5 different blueprints for understanding this. We'll start with our inner world, then look at the outside world's influence. After that, we'll see how our thinking evolves, then zoom out to the interconnected systems we live in, and finally, figure out how to put all these pieces together. Okay, our first stop is inside the mind itself. We're starting with a school of thought that believes our development is this really active, dynamic process, something that's deeply shaped by our earliest emotional experiences and a lot of hidden conflicts. The key word here is conflict. Seriously, the main idea is that from the moment we're born, we're in this constant balancing act between our basic biological drives, what we want, and what society expects from us. According to psychodynamic theory, the way we handle these conflicts is exactly what builds our personality, piece by piece. The famous Sigmund Freud saw our personality as having 3 main parts. First, when we're born, we're basically all id. It's that part of us that's all about immediate gratification. It's the crying baby that wants food right now. Then, around age 3, the ego starts to show up. This is the negotiator, the part that understands, okay, you can't always get what you want immediately. And finally, around 5 or so, the superego develops. That's our inner moral compass, our sense of right and wrong, that we get from our parents and society. Now, Freud also proposed these 5 psychosexual stages, and each one focuses on a different part of the body. The really key insight here, the one that stuck, was this idea of fixation. If a conflict at any one of these stages doesn't get resolved in a healthy way, some of our psychic energy gets stuck there, and that can bubble up and influence our personality way, way down the road in adulthood. The anal stage is a really classic, if kind of weird, example. According to Freud, if toilet training was super lenient, it could lead to what he called an anal expulsive personality. Messy, wasteful, maybe a bit rebellious. But if training was incredibly strict, it might result in a rigid, super orderly anal retentive personality. It's a really clear picture of how these super early childhood conflicts could echo for decades. But, not everyone was fully on board with Freud's focus on sexuality. A guy named Erikson took his ideas and ran with them, but he made a huge shift. He moved the spotlight from psychosexual conflicts to psychosocial crises. All the social challenges we face as we try to build our sense of who we are. And what's cool about Erikson's model is that it covers our entire lifespan. Each stage is defined by a central challenge or crisis. For instance, an infant has to learn trust versus mistrust. A teenager is grappling with identity versus role confusion. And get this, when you successfully navigate one of these crises, you come out the other side with a new psychological strength, like confidence or purpose or even wisdom. Okay, get ready for a hard pivot. Let's take everything we just talked about, the inner world, unconscious conflicts, and flip it completely on its head. What if our development isn't about what's inside at all? What if it's shaped entirely by the outside world, by what the environment does to us? This was the radical idea from John B. Watson, the father of behaviorism. He basically said, forget all that unobservable thoughts and feeling stuff. If I can't see it and measure it, it doesn't count. For Watson, the environment was everything. He famously believed he could take any child and mold them into anything he wanted, just by controlling their surroundings. Then B.F. Skinner came along and refined this with operant conditioning. And his idea was so simple but incredibly powerful. Behaviors that are followed by something good, a reinforcer like praise or a treat, are more likely to happen again. Behaviors followed by something bad, a punishment, are less likely. Think about it. A kid who gets praised for sharing is probably going to share more. We are constantly being shaped by the feedback we get from our world. But hang on, what about all the stuff we learn without direct rewards? This is where Albert Bandura comes in. He argued that we're not just passive recipients of rewards and punishments. We also learn by observing others. In his famous Bobo doll experiment, kids who just watched an adult get aggressive with a doll later copied that exact same aggression. This was huge. It meant we don't just learn by doing, we learn by watching.
So we've looked at the inner world of Freud and the outer world of the behaviorists, but our next theory asks a totally different question. What if the real story of how we develop is actually about how our ability to think about the world changes, from the inside out?
This brings us to Jean Piaget, who saw children as active little scientists, always trying to make sense of the world. He said we build these mental models, or schemas, to understand things. Now, when we see something new, we first try to fit it into a model we already have. That's called assimilation. But when it just doesn't fit, we're forced to change our model to include the new information. And that's accommodation. That constant push and pull is literally how our understanding of everything grows. Piaget believed we all move through 4 distinct stages of thinking. As infants, we learn through our senses, touching, tasting. As toddlers, we start using language and symbols. In childhood, our thinking becomes more logical, but it's tied to real-world things. And then as adolescents, we finally get the power of abstract thought. Each stage isn't just about knowing more. It's a complete reboot of how the mind itself works. Let's zoom in on that pre-operational stage. A child at this age is egocentric, and that doesn't mean selfish. It means they literally cannot see the world from another person's perspective. They might think their teddy bear is alive, or, and this is a classic, they can't understand that a tall, skinny glass holds the same amount of juice as a short, fat one. It's not that they're wrong. Their logic is just built on a completely different operating system. All right, for our final theory, we're going to pull the camera all the way back. I mean, way back. This one argues that you can't possibly understand a person without understanding the incredibly complex web of interconnected environments they live in, from their immediate family all the way out to the culture at large. Bronfenbrenner pictured our development as happening inside these nested systems, like Russian dolls. So think about a kid's success in school. Of course, it depends on their microsystem, their family and teachers. But it also depends on the mesosystem. How well do those parents and teachers actually talk to each other? And it's even affected by the exosystem, like a parent's stressful job, and the giant macrosystem of cultural values about education. All these layers are constantly interacting and shaping who we become. So, we've looked at the unconscious mind, the external environment, our evolving thought processes, and our social systems. So, after all that, which one is right? Well, that might just be the wrong question to ask. Really, the best way to see these theories is like a set of tools in a toolbox. They're not fighting each other to be the one and only truth. Instead, each theory is a different lens. Each one gives us a unique blueprint for understanding a different, crucial part of the incredibly complex masterpiece that is a human being. So as we wrap this up, I want you to think about your own story. Looking back at your life, which of these blueprints helps you make the most sense of how you became you? Was there a big psychosocial crisis that really defined your teenage years, a way of thinking you had to grow out of, or an environmental system that opened or closed doors for you? The answer is probably a little bit of all of them. And really exploring that, well, that's the key to understanding yourself.